In the waning hours of August 18, 1977, Steve Biko, the charismatic leader of South Africa's Black consciousness movement, found himself ensnared in a trap that would plunge him into a nightmare of unimaginable horror. The air was thick with tension as Biko and his comrade Peter Jones drove through the Eastern Cape, returning from a clandestine meeting in Cape Town aimed at uniting anti-apartheid factions. Their mission was bold, defying the apartheid regime's suffocating restrictions on Biko's movements. Banned since 1973, he was confined to King Williamstown, forbidden from public speaking or meeting more than one person at a time. Yet, Biko's spirit burned fiercely, his resolve to challenge white supremacy unshaken. That night, near Grahamstown, their car approached a roadblock manned by security police, a routine yet ominous fixture of apartheid's iron grip. The officers, primed by intelligence, recognized Biko instantly. His fate was sealed the moment they pulled him from the vehicle. The arrest was swift and brutal, a prelude to the savagery that awaited. Biko, 30 years old, was no stranger to police harassment, but this encounter carried a chilling finality. The security police, led by figures like Major Snyman, wasted no time asserting dominance. Stripped of his dignity, Biko was handcuffed and shoved into a police van, his towering presence reduced to a prisoner's vulnerability. The journey to Walmer Police Station in Port Elizabeth marked the beginning of his descent into hell. The officer's demeanor was laced with malice, their questions sharp and taunting, probing for details of his banned activities. Biko's defiance, rooted in his philosophy of Black pride and resistance, only inflamed their rage. He refused to cower, answering with the same intellectual clarity that had made him a threat to the regime. This courage, however, would cost him dearly. At Walmer, the interrogation began in earnest, a prelude to the violence that would define his final hours. The cells were cold, the atmosphere suffocating. Biko was held in isolation, his status as a high-profile activist ensuring he received no leniency. The police, emboldened by apartheid's impunity, saw him not as a man but as a symbol to be broken. Initial questioning turned physical as frustrations mounted. Biko's refusal to betray comrades or renounce his ideals provoked the officers. Witnesses later described a scuffle in the interrogation room, a euphemism for the savage beating that ensued. Major Snyman and his team, including officers like Lieutenant Wilkin, unleashed their fury, striking Biko with fists and batons. His head slammed against a wall, a moment that likely triggered the brain injury that would prove fatal. Blood but unbowed, Biko endured, his silence a final act of resistance against the regime's cruelty. The brutality at Walmer was not random but calculated, designed to crush the spirit of a man who had galvanized a generation. The security police knew Biko's influence. His writings, speeches, and community programs had empowered Black South Africans to reject inferiority and demand liberation. To them, he was a dangerous agitator, a Kaffir who dared challenge white supremacy. As the night wore on, Biko's condition deteriorated, yet no medical attention was provided. The officers, aware of his injuries, chose indifference, their contempt overriding any shred of humanity. By the early hours of August 19th, Biko was barely conscious, his body battered, his mind slipping. The police, however, were far from done, setting the stage for a journey that would push his suffering to unimaginable depths. As dawn broke on August 19, 1977, Steve Biko's ordeal escalated from brutal interrogation to a harrowing journey that epitomized the apartheid regime's callous disregard for human life. The security police, realizing Biko's condition was worsening, faced a choice: provide medical care or double down on their cruelty. They chose the latter. Rather than hospitalizing him in Port Elizabeth, they decided to transfer him 700 miles to Pretoria Central Prison, a decision that would prove fatal. Biko, now semi-conscious and severely injured, was loaded into the back of a Land Rover, his body stripped naked and shackled to a mat. No stretcher, no medical escort, no compassion. Just a metal grill separating him from his captors. The journey, spanning over 12 hours, was a descent into pure horror, a testament to the regime's determination to erase Biko's defiance. The Land Rover's interior became a rolling chamber of torment. Biko, suffering from a traumatic brain injury sustained during the Walmer beating, exhibited clear signs of distress. Slurred speech, disorientation, and periods of unconsciousness. His body bore the marks of violence, bruises, lacerations, and swelling. Yet the officers, including those from the security branch, ignored his plight. The drive across South Africa's rugged terrain exacerbated his injuries, each jolt and bump a fresh assault on his broken body. Reports from the inquest later revealed that Biko was given no food, water, or medical attention during the journey. The police, aware of his critical state, chose to treat him as cargo, their indifference a deliberate act of dehumanization. One officer later admitted to noticing Biko's labored breathing but dismissed it, claiming he was faking to avoid interrogation. The journey's brutality was compounded by the psychological torment of isolation. Biko, a man whose voice had inspired thousands, was now silenced, alone with his pain in the back of the vehicle. The officers' occasional taunts, racial slurs, and mocking remarks pierced the silence, a reminder of the hatred driving their actions. The decision to transport him to Pretoria, rather than a nearby hospital, was rooted in bureaucratic cruelty. Pretoria's prison had a hospital section, but it was ill-equipped for emergencies, and the police knew it. This choice reflected their intent to conceal the extent of Biko's injuries while avoiding accountability. As the hours dragged on, Biko's condition deteriorated further, his body succumbing to the cumulative trauma of beatings and neglect. By the time the Land Rover reached Pretoria, he was barely alive, his spirit clinging to a body ravaged by the regime's wrath. The transfer was not just a physical journey but a symbolic one, stripping Biko of his humanity and reducing him to a problem to be disposed of. The officers' actions, denying him care, shackling him naked, and subjecting him to a grueling drive, were acts of calculated cruelty, designed to break the man who embodied black resistance. Yet, even in this state, Biko's resilience lingered, his silence a final rebuke to his tormentors. The journey to Pretoria was the penultimate act in a tragedy orchestrated by apartheid's enforcers, setting the stage for the final, devastating blow. Upon arrival at Pretoria Central Prison on the evening of August 19, 1977, Steve Biko's final hours unfolded in a cell that became his tomb. Cell 619, a barren, concrete space in the prison's hospital section, was where the apartheid regime's cruelty culminated in his death. Biko, now barely conscious, was dumped onto a mat, still naked and shackled, his body a map of the violence inflicted upon him. The prison staff, informed of his status as a high-profile detainee, did little to assess his condition. A district surgeon, Dr. Ivor Lang, conducted a cursory examination, noting Biko's disorientation and injuries, but failing to order immediate hospitalization. Instead, he prescribed sedation, leaving Biko to languish in agony. This neglect, a hallmark of the regime's treatment of political prisoners, sealed his fate. Throughout the night, Biko's condition worsened. His brain injury, likely a cerebral hemorrhage from the Walmer beating, manifested in convulsions and incoherent speech. Blood and urine stained the mat, evidence of internal damage ignored by those tasked with his care. A second doctor, Benjamin Tucker, visited but deferred to the security police's insistence that Biko was malingering. The refusal to acknowledge his critical state was not mere incompetence but a deliberate extension of the cruelty that had begun 24 hours earlier. Biko's pleas, if he could muster them, went unheard. his humanity erased by a system that saw him as a threat to be extinguished. By the early hours of September 12, 1977, Biko slipped into a coma, his body finally succumbing to the cumulative trauma of beatings, neglect, and the torturous journey. At 7 a.m., Steve Biko was found dead in cell 619, his body curled in a fetal position, a final testament to his suffering. The official cause of death, revealed later at the inquest, was brain damage from blunt force trauma, compounded by dehydration and organ failure. The security police, led by figures like Snyman, claimed ignorance, spinning a narrative of a hunger strike and self-inflicted injuries. The inquest, held in November 1977, exposed their lies, with pathologists confirming Biko's injuries were inconsistent with anything but a savage beating. Yet, no one was held accountable. The magistrate ruled the death a result of a scuffle, absolving the police. This miscarriage of justice sparked global outrage, cementing Biko's martyrdom and galvanizing the anti-apartheid movement. Biko's last 24 hours were a microcosm of apartheid's brutality, an arrest fueled by hatred, a journey designed to degrade, and a death born of deliberate neglect. His tormentors sought to break him, but his legacy endured, a beacon of resistance against oppression. The horror of those final hours, documented in inquests and survivor accounts, remains a stark reminder of the cost of freedom and the cruelty of a regime desperate to cling to power.